Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We will start the program right away, just checking in on the number of participants, just some hygiene checks. Great. Welcome to this grand evening of NHRD and Avtar Diversity Champions Award 2022. I'm Anumita Sharma and I will be your host this evening. We will have an interesting lineup today. But before that, I would like to first introduce and invite Dr. Sanderiya Rajesh, Founder President, Avtar Group. Dr. Sanderiya is recognized for her pioneering work in the discipline of DEI, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion in Indian workspaces. With over 20 years of path-breaking work in this space, she is the advisor of choice for an impressive list of organizations across geographies. May I request you, ma'am, to deliver the welcome address?
Thank you so much, Anumita. And it's wonderful being here this evening. And may I say that it is a privilege and an honor to open this evening with a few remarks from our side. First of all, let me welcome every single one of you to this pioneering effort by the country's most respected, most prominent, most influential industry body for the profession of HR, which is the National HRD Network. The NHRD Network's vision, under the leadership of Mr. S.V. Nathan, who we all know is almost the Bhishma Pitamaha of HR, is one where we wanted the discipline of diversity, equity, and inclusion to actually be something that every one of us can understand, can actually visualize its impact and effect, and also practice it. And the beauty with this discipline of diversity and inclusion is that it is not just something that helps us create better teams. It is not just something that helps us create better business outcomes. It's not just something that helps us create a better society. It actually helps us become better versions of ourselves. So this aspect of looking at diversity, which is this entire space of how each one of us is different, and inclusion, which actually tells us that we are all one and the same in our own way, is the pursuit of not only looking at culture, in the workplace context, but also correcting some of the mistakes of history. History has actually led us to creating what we call underrepresented pools of talent. These are people who possess all the skills, all the talent, everything that is needed to be economically self-sufficient and also absolutely equal partners in the society of ours. But for some reasons, for reasons that are historical, they have been marginalized and they have actually taken up a space that is almost at the periphery of the work that happens in this world. And so the discipline of diversity, equity, and inclusion was created to ensure that not only do these people who are at the almost, at the edges, at the outer edges of work and society as we know it, obtained equal opportunities to participate fully, but even more importantly, they actually became the prime movers and the contributors to creating success within the workplace. So this aspect, this beautiful thought of ensuring that the marginalized and the underprivileged occupy center stage in the scheme of things. And not only do they just occupy center stage, they actually become the catalysts for growth, for development, for productivity, for creativity, for innovation. That is the outcome that diversity, equity, and inclusion actually creates in the world. This event today is possible because of the absolute focus, intent, and vision of a set of people who I will just name right now. One is, of course, Nathan sir, who I think is actually he embodies the spirit of inclusion. I've interacted with him and worked with him for more than a decade now. And during every interaction, I realized that his passion for creating that change comes from a very deep realization that, it is a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means it's one world in which we are all people of the same family. I want to mention my thanks to Srirang and to Swati, two amazing allies who have absolutely propelled this movement and who have enabled the coming together of all of us this evening. A very, very special thanks to Mr. Dhananjay Singh, who, apart from, of course, being the rock solid support of the NHRD and its leader, also is a person who genuinely believes that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just, some kind of a flavor of the season, but a culture and a value and a principle by which organizations must actually run themselves. The association of NHRD and Avtar has come together because of all of these people who believed truly that it is time now for these somewhat esoteric terms. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, they are constantly looked upon as something that is little different. But whereas, in India, it could not be farther from the truth that, these are alien concepts to us. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that's part of the Indian ethos for decades, for centuries, for millennia. And the way that it has come together is because diversity represents the differences, inclusion represents the coming together of those differences, and equity is the missing link that bonds these two together. So, which is why today we have this amazing evening where we celebrate the people who have actually created that movement, that buzz within their organizations. I'm often asked, you constantly speak about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Are you, an activist? And I often reply saying, I'm an actionist. I'm not an activist. I would prefer action. And I think that's what we see in the champions of today. We see action. We see a bias towards action. We constantly talk about non-conscious biases. Here, there is a very conscious bias towards action. There is a movement that enables people of the marginalized talent, of underrepresented talent, to own their spaces fully. We are going to be shortly seeing the lineup of the amazing award winners, the diversity champions for 3 categories, who will actually be felicitated for their amazing work this evening. But that's not all. This evening is just the beginning of the beautiful journey of partnership and of ensuring that all of India and the prime movers within Indian corporates, which is every one of you in this audience, HR professionals, HR thought leaders, actually come together in ensuring that diversity, equity, and inclusion really becomes a absolutely, comfortable word and concept in all our enterprises. We are going to be announcing the advent of the NHRD and Avtar Certified Diversity Professional Program. This is going to be the first ever such certified program where NHRD, which is a body of such influence and power, as you know, and Avtar, which has been credited with having pioneered the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion in India, will come together to create content which is so cutting edge, which is so powerful and so relevant that when you go through that course, you become a certified diversity professional. So we will be sharing, the information about this very shortly with you. And before I wind up, I just want to once again express my deepest gratitude, not only to everyone who has, caused this evening to fructify in the way that it has, but also to every single one of those diversity champions who are being felicitated today. But even more importantly, I want to personally thank every single diversity champion who applied for this award, because in your work, in the articulation of your work, in actually talking about why diversity is important to you, you're making a difference. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the rest of the evening. Thank you. Anu, back to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that power-packed address. This partnership has so much to offer for everybody. I would like now to invite the much introduced, but still always a pleasure to interact with, Mr. S.V. Nathan, a partner and chief talent officer at Deloitte. He has over 30 years of work experience in human resources across diverse industries, with an exceptional track record in building and leading high performance teams, as well as serving as a trusted advisor to the business. He is also serving as the board of NHRDN and is the national secretary. May I request you, sir, to deliver the opening address?
So, Anvita, thank you so much. I just got downgraded from a president to a secretary, but that does not matter. This morning, I entered my prayer room, and in that prayer room is almost like a 120-year-old picture. This is a Tanjore painting of Sita Rama Kalyanam, which is about you. So you have an image of Ram on one side, you have Sita, and you have everybody around, and people, everybody is there. And I just noticed for the very first time, there were a lot of monkeys around the place. Lots of monkeys. You had, of course, Hanumanji there. You have a lot of people, all kinds of people, and all of them were there in that one place. Diversity, it just struck me as I'm speaking now, that diversity in some sense is not about looking at the differences, and so well said by Sanderiya, is how do you really bring them up and include them. I've never seen a better picture of inclusion than the one that I have in my prayer room. It just struck me when Sanderiya spoke to us. So thank you, Sanderiya. Today is a very important day because for the first time, we have NHRDN and Avtar come together to create a national platform to recognize diversity champions. Today, you will witness a scintillating panel discussion moderated by Swati, our national board member, as she interacts with Sumit Mitra of Godrej, Rajkamal Vempati of Axis Bank, Ms. Deepti Gupta, PepsiCo India, and Ms. Sheila Dasgupta of TCS. Certainly want to take a moment to really thank the person who is really one of the co-architects out here. So Sanderiya, thank you so much. You hold a passion beyond belief. I see a lot of very familiar faces, and very, very good to see Bhavani Balasubramaniam, who is on the call today. So Bhavani, welcome. I have no idea whether you're still in Canada or you're back in India, but very nice to see you. Uma, very nice to see your ever charming face. And also want to take a moment to thank Srirang, our national secretary, because he and Swati really put their heads together and with the Avtar team came together to make this a reality. I want to take a moment to congratulate all the winners, and you will get to know them by and by. The jury members, Raj, Deepti Verma, Swati Rastogi, and the team from Avtar for going through the several entries. Applying for awards is important, and I will tell you why. Because stories are waiting to be told. There are so many stories that abound. Not so long ago, I was sitting in a room, a lot of people around, and we were discussing the compensation that's going to come up. There's always it's a very passionate subject, and who should be paid and how much and all that. Then somebody raised their hands and they said, do we believe that we are paying our women folk right? And it went into, and suddenly everybody woke up to the fact. It didn't happen recently. It happened almost 3 years ago. Today, I have that member. Every time he speaks, I would want to listen to him, because that's the voice of the unheard. Because he came up with something so staggering, which says, hey, do you believe that we are paying right to our women folk? Very proud to say, yes, today we are looking at equity, because equity is all about fair play. When you come to an organization, when you're inside, you ask yourself, is there fairness around this place? Do you believe that I'm as equal as another? It may not seem very big because somebody is doing it or somebody is not doing it, but that experience of that one single individual matters a lot. Before I sign off, I remember long ago, there was a woman who came up and put down her papers. And she said, I'm sorry, I won't be able to work with you because I have a child, and this child requires attention at least for the next foreseeable year and a half. And those days you didn't have laptops, you just had files. So there was this reporting manager who looked at that woman and said, okay, do one thing. I trust you, and you take all your files home, work from home, and do what you think is right. Come as often as you wish. If you do not wish to come for a whole week, it does not matter. But stay connected. And if you wish, you come for an hour and you go. And this happened not today, but this happened almost 25 years ago. 25 years ago, there was this person who told this woman not to leave the organization because he said, I will do whatever we can to ensure that you work with us and continue working with us. Were there any rules? No. Were there any policies? No. He broke every rule in the book. To me, he is the epitome of a great ally. I say this story because there are so many of these people who are bound in organizations and they do their jobs in the very quiet ways. Ferreting out the best of the best is difficult because each act of stepping up, stepping out and saying this is what the person has done does not come easy. No person wants to blow their own trumpet. But I think it is time for us to recognize what these stories are. I will request Dr. Sanderiya to make a compendium of these stories and share these stories because these must not be lost. Because every one of these people who come up and say, hey, this is what I have done or this is what this person has done is something that furthers the cause of what the NADCA awards are all about. The coming together of Avtar and NHRDN is only to further the cause of what is DEI. Today, we celebrate the champions, people who've been acknowledged as having done some stellar work. For those who have not made the cut, fret not, because in each one of you and each one of your stories lies a nugget waiting for us to refine. So wish you all the very best. I'm only hoping that we put all of these together and share it as widely as we can, because in the next NADCA award, instead of having 88 people on the call today, we would have perhaps 588 people, perhaps in a very large room, and perhaps all of us feeling so gratified that we're all together meeting in person. With this, Sanderiya, I thank you so much. Anumita, sorry for pulling your leg. And for people who have stuck through all these time, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. This is the evening waiting to be celebrated. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for that lovely note. Well, we often use this word champions, right? What does it truly mean? To be a champion, we often compete. But to be a great champion, we compete with the best. To be the greatest champion, we actually compete with ourselves, right? So today we have a we are really privileged to be among these stalwarts from the industry who will take us through a panel discussion championing the champions. I would like to now introduce the moderator of this panel, Ms. Swati Rastagi, President, Southern Region NHRDN. She is the Director of DEI, International Markets and Worldwide Consumer at Amazon as well. She is responsible for leading Amazon's vision around a thriving, diverse workforce and an inclusive marketplace and workplace outside of North America. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. You know, when we do these introductions, I often wonder whether, especially in this forum, I should be introducing myself as a woman, a mother, and someone who's trying desperately hard to balance between whatever work and life one calls. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Really appreciate it. It's my great pleasure today to introduce you to an awesome panel. And just like when I got to know that this is the panel and we started talking to them, I've just been super impressed with what's going to come out today. So let me just start with the introductions right away. So first, let me introduce Ms. Rajkamal Vempati. She's the head of human resources at Axis Bank, responsible for nurturing an inclusive and enabling workplace for 86,000 plus people to bring their best for their customers every day. They'll say. Her team has initiated several pioneering initiatives to seek and invite a workforce that's more representative of India and to create a workplace that is geared up for the future. Rajkamal has more than 24 years of experience across financial services, life and general insurance, and consulting. Prior to Axis Bank, she was heading human resources for ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company Limited. She was recognized as a power profile by HR LinkedIn in 2018, Business World's People List of Most Influential Women in HR 2022, and is a board member of the National HRD Network. Based on her personal experience as a leader who took a break and returned back to the workforce, she's committed to drive positive change. Towards that, she's investing her time in nurturing an ecosystem of women leaders, both internally in her organization and externally in the community through mentoring. Rajkamal holds a master's in business administration with a specialization in personal management and industrial relations from XLRI Jamshedpur. In her spare time, if she has any, she loves traveling and planning holidays. Welcome, Rajkamal. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. Let me introduce you. Go ahead, Rajkamal, go ahead.
You know, I think the same thing, the profiles, and I'm just so embarrassed. I want to get under the table and say, you know, you are here listening. I wish I could travel as much that I want, but absolutely humbled and gratified to be here, sharing the stage with all of you awesome people.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate. Next, I'd like to introduce Sumit Mitra. He's the head of Group Human Resources and Corporate Services for Godrej Industries Limited and associate companies, and a member of the Godrej Management Committee. He joined Godrej as a management trainee and has spent 25 years working across different group businesses, including FMCG, real estate, and food and agriculture. He currently leads the people practice and its efforts to build a purposeful, authentic, inclusive Godrej employer brand for over 20,000 people in over 20 countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. He has been instrumental in making Godrej an inspiring place to work with an agile and high-performing culture that attracts and engages some of the best global talent. Sumit plays a key role in due diligence, mergers and acquisitions, change management, and cross-cultural integration, which form a major part of the group's aggressive global growth strategy. He also spearheads Godrej Good and Green, the group's corporate social responsibility focus on creating shared value opportunities to address social and environmental concerns. Such a pleasure to have you, Sumit.
Thank you very much, Swati, and looking forward for this interaction.
Thank you. Let me move to introduce Deepti Gupta, who's the Sales Director for Foods Business North for PepsiCo. Deepti has spent the last 13 years at PepsiCo across sales and marketing functions and loves the hustle of working in an FMCG. She's a DEI evangelist and was a part of PepsiCo's first DEI Council in India in 2013. While leading the ERG for Women in Sales, she and her team co-created a coffee table book, Being Unapologetically You, which celebrates the women spirit in sales in PepsiCo. Deepti handles a large team and firmly believes that talent or career has no gender. She credits her mother for giving her the ability to dream and her 8-year-old daughter for piquing her curiosity and sense of wonder. Deepti, such a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks so much. And it's truly my honor to be here today with all of you. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. And now, by the way, this is my secret favorite, Srila. Please come on camera, Srila Das Gupta. Srila Das Gupta is a lead SME for diversity, equity, and inclusion at TCS. Srila has worked for over 30 years on issues related to social inclusion and human rights. With an MPhil in population studies from Jawaharlal Nehru University, India, Srila worked for over 2 decades in the not-for-profit sector, focusing on issues related to gender equity, women's economic political rights, disability rights, queer rights, violence against women, reproductive health, child survival, and public health service delivery. Srila has worked both as an outreach worker with rural poor communities, as well as an area of policy formulation and strategic planning with organizations like UN Women, USAID, Center for Policy Research, Oxfam, International Center for Research on Women. Srila was a Humphrey Fulbright Fellow in 2000-2001, a mid-career fellowship founded by the US Congress. Srila went to Tulane School of Public Health in New Orleans for her focus area of study on gender and public health. In her current role, she focuses on building an inclusive ecosystem on development of employee resource groups and is engaged in creating and curating, as well as conducting learning sessions for multiple stakeholders to create a culture of inclusion within the company. She's strategically engaged with national and international platforms for policy formulation, strategic dialogue on diversity, such as ILO and CII, to name a few. She is also a published author of a volume of poems, and wait for it, 3 murder mysteries. Welcome, Srila.
Thank you so much, Swati. I'm almost embarrassed, but thank you. It's absolutely an honor to be on this panel. I'm really looking forward to it. Back to you.
Thank you so much. We've got such an awesome panel that I think we must spice it up right up front and, throw some curveballs at them right away. So I'm going to start with a really tough one. And Rajkamal, the first one's for you. We see a lot of media events around DEI in India in the last few years. There's always some award ceremony, some articles, something happening on some forum. What do you think of this trend in general and awards like NHRDN Avtar Awards specifically in this space?
And I think 2-3 months ago, Sanderiya and I had a Twitter conversation. We see so many awards, so much conversation about diversity and people kind of espousing. And then we saw a publication having plethora of manuals where, and in the space of STEM, right, in technology. And I'm like, it's 2022. And then there was another clip that went viral in terms of how, I think that went viral in a business channel where one of the hosts said, and some cheesy line, women are mercurial. And it was like in a jest, and the other part, the host also kind of, he kind of participated. And I think for us to really say, start patting ourselves on the back, conversations have changed just because there are 3 in the media, 2 platforms or 2 people putting it on Twitter and everybody talking about that they are gender specialists or inclusion champions, etc. I think we are living in our echo chamber. So truly speaking, I think it's 2022. The conversation is, this is the need of the hour because our participation rates are on, if you look at just the gender part, right? It's on the lowest part. when I came back from US and, 2007, I think I was the only working woman around, and I would say nobody has the problems that I have. Around the time, maybe 5 years later, I said, oh, we are worse than Pakistan and Bangladesh, but consolation was we are better than Saudi Arabia. Now I can't even say that in 10 years. That's the position that we are in. And I think that's the context that we are living in. So we need to work as a collective to champion this and drive positive change towards this. And I think a lot of us in corporates are passive recipients. We will do lip service and say, yeah, we support it, but do we really have allies? And that's where I think the fact that Avtar is doing such a fabulous job. And Sanderiya, you're a star and your team is out there, really, I think from Avtar to come and partner with NHRD, just not only gives credibility, but I think it raises the conversation. And for me, idea is to identify allies. I identify, or is even just the application process. And I was, part of the jury, and I'm like, okay, just the fact if we go back to the people and say, these are the things that you're not doing, we'll force them to do 3 more things, drive a little bit of change. And these are the nudges we need to, drive. And I think, I'm not going and saying how distinctive are we. Everybody feels that awards special. I know this is truly special in terms of how it's been conducted. But I think it just gives credibility, and especially given NHRD, the premier HR body, is doing it, raises the conversation, will drive the HR partners as well as the business leaders to take it a lot more seriously and drive positive change, even in the organizations which perhaps don't win. But genuinely speaking, I think all of us need to raise our hands to do something about it.
Thank you for saying that. And I agree with you. These are truly special. And I'm sure when the team talks about how the evaluation was done and why these are special, that come to life. Sumit, I want to take the same question to you. You've been doing a lot of work in Godrej, specifically around communities. And what do you think of this conversation and the entire conversation on having awards, having a lot of media attention on the issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I would kind of agree with Raj. Sometimes, some of these topics are over talked about, becomes the fad of the day. However, I think it's very important that some of these important conversations happen and we are able to showcase good work. This is one area, and there are several such areas in the way we look at our social and, national development, where collaboration is very important, right? It's not about 2 organizations in the same competitive space wanting to do different things around DEI, right? It's about learning from each other. As Raj was saying, that our journey is so nascent that if we take this baton and say that I'm going to do it all, I don't think we are going to sort of manage anything, right? And these platforms and these awards, not just brings this conversation to the limelight, but for more importantly, gets us to network and gets us to learn and reflect, right? 2 ideas that if I pick up today from this panel, from this awards, from what people have done, and if I connect with people who have done this, right, and apply it to my organization, I think I'll be a much, much richer resource and an ally than if I go on this journey myself. So for me, and Sanderiya, thank you for sort of spearheading this along with NHRDN. I think it's really important that organizations who really care about this subject brings this out, and we are able to have these conversations honestly. I just hope that this conversations doesn't become, obviously the wins that we have. I think it's very important to celebrate those wins. But in this journey, I think all of us also had our pitfalls and all of us also had our challenges. And I think, if you're going to talk about these honestly and share, I think we will be able to move much, much faster. So my hope is that these platforms help us in this journey and make some of this happen much faster. And that's really the dream that possibly an organization and a platform like this will leave for us.
Thank you so much for that. Awesome point. How do we share not just the wins, but opportunities to learn from each other and understand that the space is about collaboration and not really competing with each other in terms of who's done the best work. So thank you for that. I want to move to you, Srila, on this one. We keep hearing this phrase, equality is not equity. How do we recognize and celebrate acts or policies around equity? Do you have any examples to share on how you've experimented with equity?
Yes, in fact, but just before I start, for everybody, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And for those who cannot see me, I am a woman. I have graying black hair. I am wearing a white and red sari and a red bindi, and I have glasses which I've currently put on top of my head because so that I can read the chats. Otherwise, I'm growing old and I can't. So to come back to your question, I'm very glad that the paradigm and the discourse has moved from equality to equity. It's something that emerges from the human rights framework, and it being finally integrated into the diversity, equity, inclusion discourse within the formal sector, within corporates, is really very heartening. So I really think I am an eternal optimist, and I love the fact that we have moved. We actually have moved from place A to place B, as I can see it. And equity really means that one is committed to justice and fair play, as the secretary said earlier. And I think the organizational intent really comes through when one not only has policies, but very rigorous mechanisms of implementing those policies along with very visible accountability. So if you have, say, a maternal, like a maternity leave policy, which is like a basic minimum, I think, diversity, equity, inclusion policy, where you have mechanisms for grievance redressal and investigation, which is linked to an ethos of non-negotiables on violations against people who are underrepresented of marginalized, socially excluded at any level. Also, things like very well developed mechanisms of redressal for the POSH policy, which incidentally at ECS is gender agnostic, which respects the fact that grievances can happen against the queer community, can happen across, can be non-binary, and that is what is more important. So an accessibility policy, from pre-hiring, if you have for including persons with disability. So those are measures in which you actually, and of course, like having mechanisms in place to create that digital accessibility or physical accessibility as well. These are ways in which equity can be, I wouldn't say ensured, but we move towards an enablement process. Eventually, I think, I think even may not happen in toto in by the time I retire, but which is not too far away. But then it really is moving in the right direction. I think that's great. Also through training, which I know is a much abused word, but educating people to create that ecosystem, because unconscious biases are so difficult to unlearn. And you know, to be like equitable and an ally, it's so important to really be aware at least about what one needs to do. So I think I'm going to stop there. Just one more thing is that once one has celebrations, like celebrating the Pride Month, celebrating the International Persons for Disability with Women, we are currently in the middle of celebrating International Women's Day as an International Women's Month. We celebrated International Men's Day throughout November. So Neurodiversity Month comes up in April. Accessibility Month comes up in May. So it's important because it creates visibility for role models and other people, and also people who are in policy or other places to come and speak. Back to you, Swati. I talked too much.
No, thank you so much. Love the point on enablement, and thanks for referring to Nathan, who's the president of NHRD, in terms of the pay equity that he brought up.
I think it's awesome. Secretary, which I respected what you said.
So really, thank you for bringing that up. Deepti, how have you ever experimented with equity?
Oh, I live a life in sales, which is as untraditional as it gets for a woman. So we are, and thankfully, PepsiCo as an organization really believes in equity and inclusion. And I'm going to start by one of my stories, since Nathan was talking about the power of story building. Work from home enables all our children listening into conversations. And the other day, my daughter comes up to me and says, why are you making such a fuss about a woman in rural India? A woman can do what she wants to do and doesn't have to do what you want her to do. And that for me was such a big aha. The conversations are changing. The actions, of course, need to be supported in order to facilitate and expedite those changes. Because Sheila, we do want those changes happening before you retire. So, in PepsiCo, for instance, and what we really talk about is gender parity, right? We believe, and I've said that before, that talent, capability, roles have no genders. So why should there be a pay disparity? We actually have followed the principles of pay parity for the last, I think, 6 years, 10 years or above now at PepsiCo. What we do ensure is that all our bench planning or our talent pipelines have equity in terms of representation. Okay, we do not subscribe to having a woman fill a particular role or a particular gender fill a particular role. What we say is the best person should get the role, but have a talent pipeline, or at least view as many people, meet them to give them a fair chance. What we also look at is something called the organizational health scores. It's an organization-wide survey that we conduct. And in that, we actually look at various factors by gender. So is our inclusion index for men and women the same? And once we get those social listenings, we actually take actions to improve that. And I'm so happy to share with the team here that just listening creates so much more awareness, in turn creates so many more allies, and does lead to a lot more action, not just at an organization level, but also at each of our individual levels. Just the last bit that I do want to mention also is things like, paternity and maternity policy. Our policies are for adoptive parents, for single parents, same-sex parents. Our insurances, medicals, all of that, we try and not differentiate and give an equal opportunity to people. And that for me is really equity or fair play, as we heard Nathan speak about just before this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Were you going to say something?
Yes, I was just about to say the last bit, and then I got a little distracted. But, our child care at our head office is open for both men and women. And that, to me, is the big difference in thought that we are really driving. And like I said, Sheila, we'll try and do it as early as possible. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sumit, this one's for you. Diversity is such a vast topic when one talks of diversity. So as an organization, how do you prioritize and decide what is it in the space of diversity that you want to work on?
I think that's a very important sort of question and a decision, right? And, we do it more through discussions and, should I say, immersions. We've been sort of running a very interesting program with our top 30 leaders, including all CEOs. And, we had Avtar also come and take a session where we sort of got them to, dwell in each facet of diversity. Let it be women, let it be, LGBTQ, let it be PWD, let it be race, let it be religion. And we ran it over 6 months. And it was like a 2-hour sort of session every 15 days. You really understand what each of these sections bring, what are the challenges. And then we sort of said that, each business go back and really say, what is the cause that you want to champion, right? What is it that really makes sense even from you as a business? To me, I think diversity and inclusion has 2 angles. I think one is it is good to do and it's important to do it, right? I also think that we talk about business cases, but not every time the business case is evident, and not every time can we follow and find a business case, right? But the heart of a leader to say that this is a cause I'm going to sort of push in my business is very, very important. So we've used the very immersive and inclusive kind of framework and said that at a group level, I think gender is very important. And we will drive gender irrespective of which business it is. And gender includes not just women, but also LGBTQ, etc. But we will additionally allow each of our other businesses to pick an area that they're very passionate of. And I'll give you an example. So Godrej Agrovet is an agri-based conglomerate. They have very regional work with farmers in rural India. And they realized that, representation of every state becomes in the organization is a very important part of the business case. Because if they don't understand what the rural Indian farmer in that state is going through and is able to connect, they will be at a competitive disadvantage, right? If I look at real estate business, they've picked up saying that talent in real estate is scarce, right? This sector is evolving. So we would be very open to look at young talent across education institutes. Doesn't matter whether it's engineering or, civil or architect, but we will train them. And that's where, Deepti and Sheila's point of equity comes in, to say that it's important for us to understand that people will come at different points, right? But how do we allow that difference to really play together in an organization becomes very important. And through our journey, we have realized that unless we have leadership mindset and heart in this, it's very difficult to make things happen by just mandating it. So that's the approach we have taken. And I think it works pretty well for us right now.
Raj, how does it work in your organization? How have you prioritized it?
So, another aspect beyond what Sumit has said that we've looked at is, if you look at it, one is, yes, diversity, equity, inclusion is must do for us, essentially also as the society is changing. And do we really feel that in society, each and every voice is representative? And are we celebrating that voice? And one of the things that we first did was, even when we were discussing this entire we were treading on this path, one of the questions was, even in our decision making, do people on the table have a voice? And that's where we started. So we really didn't go with a big business case, except, but I think it's must to do. The other part is, if you look at most of the organizations are really embarking on the ESG agenda. And one of the key questions on governance and in sustainability is about the kind of inclusive culture, whether you have it or not. What's the representation on the board or not? How are you looking at building this pipeline? And often I don't think we, maybe the ESG agenda is managed by somebody else, or the investor relations team is looking at it. But this is a core part of the question. Are you really building a sustainable culture? That's the other part. We have 7 to 8 companies across the group. I think similar, what we do is we have a conversation. This has to be a distinctive area for us. Everybody, and the other way that we've looked at is, how many teams do you have? And by teams, if you have a people manager, you have representation on it. Then we realized initially when we started, actually, when we look at the pipeline, the matrices are misleading. When we started looking at the team level, we realized there are 30% of teams who don't have any representation. And we started differently. I said, each and every team has to have a different voice. And that's the path that we've kind of embarked on. And we've done our pause for bias sessions. And the pause for bias sessions, actually, as a management committee, we kind of said, how many of you say, morning, guys? That's the first level of, and I raised my hand. I said, I say morning, guys, all the time. And for me, guys is such a gender neutral thing. And there we are. But how do we refer to a customer? We refer to her or him. It's always typically a him. And there are many, many things there. I think more than the sensitization, what has helped is ensuring the teams have representation. And each of the businesses, again, have picked up one area of passion. Like my securities business has taken people with disabilities and looking at their service center to be architected differently to include them, So each and every business has picked one area of passion, but looking at this LGBTQI, gender, etc., there has to be a certain number. Having said which, I think the journey is still far from over, because there's, you may do the teens, then you may get to the next level. And I will go back to Shrila's question on equity, and personally, and Swati, you said, do you identify yourself as a women leader? I'm like, you are Rajkamal, right? She, her is not such a big part of your life. But, I have had one ally come to me, and I was going, and this is maybe 2-3 years of pre-COVID. I had my bag, and I was going with my colleague, who happens to be she was head of learning, and we were going for a meeting outside. And this ally, who's supposed to be so inclusive, championing the cause of it, he just looked at me and said, "Are you going shopping?" And I'm like, in what world is he thinking? Because he sees two women with a bag. The picture comes through that, they only go and shop. That's the only thing that they can do, right? And, conversation instances like this are the ones that kind of pull the back. Pull the conversation back. And that's why you need to keep chipping away. And I think this pause for bias session, which we have, pause before you think. You may be patronizing. What is your orientation towards inclusion, right? You can be patronizing. You can be saying that, I'm a leader. But I think in all of this, one thing for us has been a big lesson, has been courage. Beyond heart and everything, it's courage. When we did the charter on LGBTQI, and I think September is when we put out, and it was an interesting exercise that we had, where the sales head from Punjab, I think he said, there is a certain community they're not included. And at that time, we were looking at also including getting representation from LGBTQI in our bank. And we actually, at that time, when we were putting out the charter, we actually asked the management committee and had a collective conversation saying that our 90,000 people come from the same society, right? There will be things that will go wrong, and we'll get trolled on in the media. Are we ready to go for it? And everybody unequivocally said, let's go for it, because otherwise change will not happen. So change is painful. There will be, and hopefully through these processes will pave the way. Because, if you look at most transgender, don't have a bank account. That's the sad reality. They can't, same-sex partners don't nominate because they don't come to the banks. They don't realize they can't. There is nothing in the regulations that prevents us. So essentially, when you look at inclusion, you've got to look at, and leadership. Leaders have to make it not only a business case, but seeing, are they inviting customers, and also building a workplace which is more representative of the society that we live in. But courage is something that we need to go for as well. Not to say that, I will do what Sumit is doing or Deepti is doing, Srila is doing. Their contexts are different. All of us have to just chip away, nudge, push, pull, and take the pain along with the change that comes.
I'm just super amazed at the depth of the conversation and what each one of you is bringing to the table. Thank you so much. There's a question in the chat box, and Srila, I think you would be great at taking this one, which is to say, it's great to have awards and great to celebrate individual success, but how do you make sure that an organization is accepting of the change, and this is not one person's work, but becomes really in-depth accepted in the organization?
I think it would really bring me to like what is my current heart's desire, which is employee resource groups, actually, because I think that is a platform which I have seen evolving over the last several years within the organization. And these create platforms not only for the community, but they also invite leadership, sponsorship, and like a very powerful voice for the community, and allies to step up very visibly. So I think within the organization, recognition really emerges. I have seen visible recognition really emerging from these employee resource groups when they are invited to celebrate their identity. So the moment anybody is celebrating, and that is a platform, and the moment everybody realizes that you are kind of there to take forward the people. I wouldn't even use the word agenda. I'm really looking for a better word. but people interests or this thing, because I think people are centric to organizations. Without people, organizations don't stand. So the respect for every identity is, I think, central to that. And I think that that's a great platform to use. Last year, in fact, for the Pride Month, TCS had its logo on LinkedIn in rainbow colors. So that's a huge way in which we kind of send out a message. Again, I think the messaging really has to be strong. I don't know if that answers the question of the of Rajesh, but at least hopefully part of it.
Rajesh, I hope we answered you. And I think there were some beautiful nuggets in what Raj said as well. And I heard the same thing yesterday from another speaker on a different forum where they said, when you talk to the business, make it matter because it's not about, and she talked about having bank accounts for same sex. And, they were talking more about saying, how do you make sure that anything that you do actually have awesome business buy-in, because it matters to the business as well. And she said it very beautifully towards the end, and that's why it stayed with me. She said, the question to ask the leaders is not, can you do it, but how dare you not do it? It's part of the society that you live in. And that really stayed with me. Deepti, what are your thoughts on this?
Thanks, Swati, because I was itching to jump in and tell you that the first thing that we really need to do as individuals and organizations is to articulate very clearly what we as employees, employers, organizations, humans want for our future. Are we happy living in, a confirmation bias kind of a world? Or do we really value diversity? Not just, in gender, but in opinions, in thoughts, in leadership, in action, in everything else, in age. We all talk about so many youngsters coming into the organizations and how difficult it is to manage millennials. Then we talk about our LGBTQIA+ community, but how many of us, and I say it proudly, Pepsi has, but how many of us have a representation in, say, a posh, council? How many of us give them the respect that they deserve as human beings, right? Why do we need to first categorize people before we look at them? So that's, I think, the first thing that we need to do. The second is how do we create a supportive ecosystem? It could be through intelligence inclusion workshops. It could be through gender sensitizations. It could be through creating more awareness. But the question again is not how, but how soon can we do it and create this environment? Thirdly, statistics help. Okay, and I come from a sales background. I can tell you it makes it as objective as anything. 50% of our women are graduating from college, 3% become CEOs. Do we collectively want to plug in the leaky bucket? Fourth, the more we create allies, the more we create ownership, the more we create the self-fulfilling philosophy and self-fulfilling philosophy of everybody growing together, because growth is not really a zero-sum game.
Come real sticky on. Zoom bomb. Get Zoom bomb, goofy. Zoom bomb.
Wow, I love the music behind you.
Yeah, I love the music too.
Yes, I think there's someone who's there who's taking over your laptop.
Sticky on. Finna give me a booty hole fitty cut.
Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar.
Could any of the organizers want to mute them?
Can the organizers?
You are a host, yeah.
I'll see you on the floor.
It was the appropriate music to my conversation.
Rape y'all niggas. Projects, y'all. Ain't never get along.
Thanks so much. But I will continue with the
bombed buildings, you fucking tech support.
Mo. I need care for the bar now yet. Cooking in the kitchen.
Hello, give me your tech support. I need to go to Daddy Monkey Shoot without showing.
You are just a Zoom bomb. You're hacking your Zoom. You're hacking your Zoom, my guy. You're hacking your Zoom. You're hacking your Zoom. You're hacking the Zoom. Hashtag Ziga. We're hacking the Zoom.
Hello, sir. I'm here to take your text.
We're hacking the Zoom. Hello, my name is Jonathan Mabalobala. Hello, we're hacking it. We are the kings of hacking.
Yeah, I think it's been sorted. Thank you, Avinash.
Join the clan!
No, there is still one
Join the
person.
clan! Join the clan!
Thank you, Avinash. Appreciate that. Maybe we just keep a track of what's happening on these back end. I guess it's just someone hacking into the system. Apologies, but I think it's very interesting to have this kind of a mid-break, right? Just kind of peps us all up to really say it even more loudly, which is, and Deepti, you were talking about saying that it's about constantly, reinforcing the message and keep talking of how much more and can we do this collectively. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, and the last bit,
yes,
Swati, before I got thrown out, I promise it wasn't me. But, the last bit is the importance of role models. We really underestimate the importance of role models, not just creating them, but also really, supporting them, celebrating them in our journey.
Right. No, thank you for that. The question that I would have for you, Sumit, is around, when we talk of diversity and we've talked about equity, inclusion is another really, really very interesting piece. And on inclusion, the question that I have for you is, we hire leaders and we grow them and we develop them because they're really good at something and they bring a certain skill set. And then once they're at a leadership position, we are asking them to experiment with something in their head new, which is being inclusive. What's your thought on that and saying, what is this inclusion all about? What do leaders need to do to be inclusive? Is it different from being a leader? So, Sumit, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, sorry. Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Think,
thank you.
The organizers had muted everyone, which I think was the right thing to do at that point.
Thank you.
No, yeah. So Swati, someone sort of talked about this being the right thing to do and why not, right? And I think that's the appeal that we need to make to our leaders, right? So to me, I think none of this is alien to individuals outside work, right? You come home, you have a family which is inclusive, you go to society, you meet others, right? So why should the lens change when it comes to workplace, right? And to me, I think this appeal to the heart and say that, why would you not do this? And I really like that phrase is really what we would sort of use. And I'll again sort of talk a little bit of a story that happened a few years back. So we started our LGBTQ journey. We had a few people come out about a decade back, right? But honestly, I would sort of walk the corridors and there would still be whispers around, and you know that, the acceptance level is not where it is, and including leaders, right? What we started doing then is like, we have our annual leadership event and we started saying that we will plug this, purposely as a part of the 2-day event. So there will be LGBT representation, there will be conversations, we'll have this very much out there. I remember the first time we did it, people were very uncomfortable. After that, people said, this was not what we expected. The second year we did this, we had this interesting person who came on to speak, and he had come out. He was a celebrity. Till then, it was fine, right? And we didn't know, but he had got his father with him, and he was sitting at the back. And his father suddenly stood up in the middle of his talk and said that I wanted to share something which I've never shared in any other forum, right? And he shared what it was for him as a father, to say that when his son came out and say that he was not straight, right? And that was an amazing moment where I could literally see that the entire leadership team shifted, right? And the whole conversation became saying that, yeah, it can happen to me, right? It's something which is not alien, right? And to me, I think if we are able to break through this conversation to say that, numbers are very important, we need to track them, we need to have aspiration and goals. But at the end of it, this is something which is very much a part of what I am, and it's nothing alien, right? And if we can appeal to these senses of leadership, I think it will definitely sort of make bigger impact. At least that's for us, that's been probably the watershed event on our LGBTQ journey. Obviously, we need to try pushing in the business case. Obviously, we'll have critiques, etc. But I really, from my experience, not seen anything change the needle as much as that single sort of moment did. Right. So I would appeal to everyone to say that, talk to people and really ask them why not. Yes, Sati.
Thank you for that. And I can see that someone's really, really keen to disrupt this conversation, which is very common in any diversity, equity, and inclusion space. So I'm quite appreciative of the fact that somebody feels so strongly about it that they would like to disrupt it, which means the conversation is going really well. So thank you so much. And Raj, your perspective on inclusion.
Inclusion is also to foster a sense of belonging, right? And we look at the numbers, and one of the things, we talked about leadership and all of that. I think when I look at leaky pipeline, one often underrepresented fact, at least I've seen it in financial services, we have huge host of supply that comes in, and we look at performance rates, we were looking at equity and all of that. But I think there was something about the promotion rates. And when we looked at it, the first time managers, not the individual contributor, first time managers is where the gap was. And when we did the conversations with people, we realized that there was stunting of aspirations, calibrating expectations. And these are young, bright women who've gone through the same experiences in education, who've had the same fights with the ecosystem. They've gone through the same journeys. And suddenly what happens after 5-6 years, where they are calibrating their expectations, aspirations, stunting, and all of that. And that's where the pipeline started leaking. And we were earlier, when we look at equity matrices, and I said, don't get comfortable with equity matrices, performance rating, nothing, there was no difference. Gender, nothing, no difference. But then you look at this promotion cohort, the first time managers, not later, but this was the cohort. They didn't belong. They felt they didn't belong. They weren't there. And I think inclusion is really about finding out the spaces where everyone, each one of us belong. And my favorite example in this is, as a child, like I'm a mother, and I know when my child was born, I would say, you're so special, you're so different. We celebrate. The kid starts crawling in 4 months, we kind of celebrate. And the kid starts crawling in 6 months, no, not really, right? You kind of look at each and every difference with such microscopic view. And you and your husband are patting as if, the child is special because of you and something that you're doing. Maybe your genes are special. And what happens to the same child, the same person as they reach adolescence or from adolescence to adulthood? We ask them to box themselves in templates. I think inclusion is also about unboxing ourselves first, our mindset, our templates, and ensuring that people unbox them and we celebrate them. And they are special in their own way.
That's beautifully said. Thank you so much. Really appreciate what you said just now. There was a question in the chat box that I'd like to take. What would you say is the most difficult part of implementing DEI? Deepti, to you.
Have you been able to unmute yourself, Deepti?
Yes, I have. Thank you so much. And you've done something that my husband has not been able to do, which is mute me. So thank you so much for that. Okay, I think what really is the most difficult thing, and I'm going to divide it into two. One is what Raj spoke about, having the courage. I think as individuals, we lack the courage first to expect parity. We are so self-critical that we are ready to fit in. But like our ERG said, be unapologetically you, celebrate yourself first. The second part is creating the whole bit on awareness, allies, and action. We club it into one because we think that any one of the three without the other two will not result in any action or any change. You need to have enough awareness, you need to have enough allyship, and you need to have enough action to support the change that you have articulated unapologetically. Raj spoke about how she'd walked out with a bag and a colleague said, "Are you going shopping?" I remember walking out of office at about 6:30 in the evening at some point in time to go to my 2-year-old, and somebody turned around and said, "Oh, you're having a half day today." And, one way was for me to sob into my pillow. Thankfully, the fortitude made me turn around and tell him, "Oh, don't you get that privilege?" And that really, sort of quietened him down. Because what is going to happen is, unless we stand up for ourselves, there is not enough change that we'll be able to foster as an ecosystem. There will always be, like Sumit had said, critics to what you're doing. But to each of us here on this call, and I see there are 85 of us, and I truly believe all DE&I evangelists, passionate champions, it is up to each of us to give this change a chance.
Thanks a ton for that. We're at the last 5 minutes, so I'm going to really spice this up a little bit for all of you. So I'm going to ask questions for which I like really to get like a 1-line, 2-line response, not too many words to it, right? So Deepti, for you, let's start with you because you're still able to unmute right now, is how do we measure results for DEI outside of representation? Okay. Requesting the host to unmute Deepti. That's giving her an unfair advantage, giving her time to think.
Yes. Okay. How do we measure DE&I outside representation? Just the numbers. I have told you this before, that what gets measured gets tracked, what gets rewarded gets repeated. But outside of that, we do a lot of social listening. We have our OHS scores where we look at how the men and women have scored differently. We have parity indexes that we do, which is not just at, like Raj was saying, at the entry level, but also at cohorts level. Not just on the promotional or career journeys, we also look at it as cohorts in the life stages. So how many returning moms do we have? Are we able to provide them with support once they're coming back? And so on. So I think matrices are good. They help us give direction, and we should look at it as guardrails. What we need to do is a lot more than that. And it always helps to have a ear on the ground. So
Thank you for that. Sumit, and I'm asking the host to unmute him in case he's on mute, and I'm going to hold on to my question so it doesn't get any time. Perfect. So Sumit, this one's for you. Yeah. What's the best book you've read around DEI?
I think there's a lot around DEI, but one which I really want to recommend is a book called Kveristan, written by a friend and colleague, Parmesh Shani. What I really liked the relevance of the book in the Indian context, because LGBTQ has been such a difficult subject in India, and I think he brings it out and the journey of how organizations have thought through it. So I thought it's a very, very relevant sort of book for us.
Awesome book. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone who's not read it, I'd strongly recommend that you do. And of course, it's available on Amazon. But do read it. It's an awesome book. I'm waiting for the host to unmute you, Sheila. Awesome. DEI is important to me because
it gives opportunity not only to people from every underrepresented group to have a voice and a presence, but it also eventually contributes to better business advantage. So for everybody. So I think that is why. So the diversity dividend is really going to be possible if with DEI and otherwise not possible.
Thank you so much for that. And I believe Raj has had to leave us, but I really think it's actually because she thought the question was going to be tough. Thank you so much, all of you, for just participating and sharing some awesome inputs through the evening. It's been really awesome. And being that this is a DEI forum, it shouldn't end without acknowledging someone trying to really get worried about this conversation and trying their best to make it difficult. And as you know, as all of us who are really strong advocates of this space, we couldn't care less. We're still going to go at it and really strongly. So thank you so much, panelists, for staying with me through this, and to all the organizers. Really appreciate it. Back to you, Anumita.
Thank you so much, Swati. Thank you so much, Mr. Sumit, Raj Kamal, Deepti, Srila. You guys have been rock stars through this whole thing, through all the disruptions and whatnot. Well, we are just a step away from the most awaited award section. I would now like to invite Ms. Anuradha Kanchi. She's our principal strategist, audits and assessment at Avtar Group. She will take us through the evaluation process of the Diversity Champion Awards. Over to you, ma'am. Avinash, could you just unmute her and allow her to? Lalita, are you able to present your screen?
Yes. Great. Thank you, Anumita. And I must actually say a big thank you here to Avinash to handle the situation pretty well by muting us and unmuting us as per the requirement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to take you through the process of evaluating the 2022 inaugural edition of NHRD and Avtar Diversity Champions. NHRD and Avtar have envisioned having these awards to identify and celebrate individual leaders who are furthering the cause of diversity, equity, and inclusion in their workplaces in large, medium, and the MSME sector, in the various diverse strands with persons with disabilities, gender, and LGBTQ plus communities. An individual can be nominated only for one discrete award amongst the gender, LGBTQ community, and people with disabilities. Nominations from the same organization were accepted, but for different diversity strands. After completion of the registration process, the nomination form was filled online via a standardized application form. an expert panel of 6 members from Avtar NHRD network and NHRD network evaluated the nominations. So now let us know our esteemed jury members. Our most important jury member, a pioneer in gender, is Mrs. Bhavani Balasubramaniam. She's a Chief Strategist, Diversity Evaluations, Avtar Group. Prior to this, she is a chartered accountant by profession and an inclusive leader by passion. So prior to Avtar, she has been a former partner of Deloitte, Haskin and Sells and Fraser and Ross Chartered Accountants. In her role as an inclusion leader, she has led various inclusive initiatives that, sorry, please. Sorry. Excuse me. In her role as an inclusion leader, she has led various inclusive initiatives that have led her to organization being placed amongst the top 10 best companies for women in India by Avtar and Working Mother, one of the foremost rankings in this domain. She has led diversity and inclusion initiatives for around 5,000 professionals over 4 years. She is currently engaged in transformative coaching with high potential mid-career professional women for leadership development. Our second jury member is Ms. Deepti Verma. She leads corporate and consumer HR for Amazon in APAC and the Middle East. She has been working with Amazon for the past 10 years. Deepti is an active member of multiple women in leadership forums and is passionate about diversity and inclusion, where she has bootstrapped multiple innovative and scalable initiatives across different organizations. She is also the DEI chairperson for NHRD Hyderabad. Our third jury member is Mr. Kannan Hariharan. He is the Chief Strategist, Culture and Belongingness, Avtar Group. Prior to this, Kannan was Senior Director HR with PepsiCo International for over 21 years till March 2018, including 8 years in Vietnam and APAC. Kannan is a recipient of the PepsiCo Harvey C. Russell Diversity and Inclusion Award in 2004 and 2014, Chairman's Award for Corporate Social Responsibility in 2006, and Chairman's Award for Business Performance in Vietnam in 2014. He is also a Marshall, Goldsmith and Hogan certified coach. He has conducted diversity, inclusion, and belongingness interventions for several organizations from various industry verticals as part of the Avtar team. Our next jury member is Ms. Pavitra Singh. Currently, she heads HR for PepsiCo India. She has been with PepsiCo for the last 15 plus years, with 20 years of work experience leading large teams across geographies. She has held leadership positions across a variety of roles in India and other markets. Pavitra is passionate about building institutional capability and nurturing young talent. An inclusive and diversity evangelist, she strongly believes in creating a team of inclusion for all diversity to thrive in spirit and action. A known leader in the HR domain, she has been recognized externally by multiple forums and thought leadership platforms, and called in many external forums as a DEI champion. Our next jury member is again from Avtar. He is the Chief, Mr. P. Sriram is the Chief Strategist, DI Transformation, Avtar Group. Sriram has around 38 years in corporate, having worked in senior leadership roles across large MNCs and reputed Indian organizations like Pernod Ricard, UB Group, Shaw Wallace, and so on. He is an executive coach, trained numerous executives across different functions such as finance, HR, marketing, communications, and move up in the corporate ladder. Shriram's personal mission statement in life is committed to serve as a leader, continuously develop human capital, and apply ethical principles to make world a better place to live. Our last and most important panel member, as well as, she is the most important jury member. She's the head of HR, Rajkamal Vempati. She's the head HR of Axis Bank. And I cannot give a better introduction than what Swati has already given. The esteemed jury has evaluated all the nominations and laid emphasis on the work on diversity strands, and they have been nominated for, and also for the size of the organization, and then arrived at the award winners. Must say that it was an extremely difficult task for the jury members to choose the winner. The criteria for choosing the winner has been their vision or purpose for DEI championship, impact created, authenticity, willingness to commit to further course of action. A very hearty congratulations to all the participants for participating in this first Diversity Championship Award. I now hand you back to Ms. Anumita for the most awaited awards program today.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for setting that context. And now on to the most awaited segment of the evening. I cordially invite Dr. Sanderiya Rajesh to announce the winner for the gender category. This would be to celebrate individuals who have contributed to gender-specific programs and initiatives that have enabled the organizations to increase gender diversity. Over to you, ma'am. Avinash, could you please help unmute Dr. Sanderiya, please?
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks, Avinash, for deft handling of that situation. And Swati, you couldn't have put it better. I think the way in which, the grace with which you handled the whole situation, and the felicity with which you actually conducted the panel discussion and moderated it, kudos to you, and just shows the power of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the coming together of the views that were presented. I'm now absolutely thrilled and delighted to announce not one, but two winners for the gender champion category. I have to say that arriving at the selection of these two winners was among the toughest things that the jury could have done. And I say this with a lot of humility, because Avtar puts together the best companies for women in India and the most inclusive companies index. And that is a year-long process that we do. But nevertheless, the whole aspect of identifying these two gender champions and arriving at their final, the names of the final awardees was something that was absolutely challenging for all of us. I would now like to announce these two winners for the gender category, strictly in alphabetical order. The first award goes to Apoorva Agarwal. Hearty congratulations, Apoorva. Apoorva has experience of close to 19 years, and she is the office managing principal at ZS Associates India Private Limited. She also holds a role that has DEI accountability, and she has participated, spoken at many events, has written articles and white papers, and she has actually been awarded for her great work in gender diversity in several forums. She also actively participates in the Women's Network Group and the ERG activities at ZS Associates, and she also is someone who deeply values the diversity, not only of gender, but of ideas and thoughts as well. She thrives, in her own words, on a strong sense of purpose, and she believes that with just a little push, organizations can tap into their women's workforce strength and empower them to lead successful careers. So for her wonderful work in not only crafting the inclusion and diversity programs for women at ZS Associates, but also for her immense support of their lives and careers, Apoorva Agarwal wins the Gender Champion Award at the NADCA Awards, at the NHRD and Avtar Diversity Champion Awards. Big round of applause for Apoorva Agarwal. The second Diversity Champion Award goes to Suvarna Mishra. Hearty congratulations, Suvarna. With over 18 years of industry experience, Suvarna is the Vice President and Head of HR at Sodexo SVC India Private Limited. She is someone who is an active member of the D&I Council at Suvarna, at Sodexo, and she has actually contributed to creating a very engaged workforce and a true enhancement in the quality of life for not just the employees at Sodexo, but also for clients and customers. Some very innovative policies, and this is the equity piece, in Suvarna's journey, that have been launched under her leadership are co-sharing of childcare expenses, a new age insurance cover, which is a first of its kind, and one that will actually cover not just women, but also same-sex partners for the LGBTQ community. For all of this wonderful work, Suvarna Mishra wins the Gender Champion Award at the inaugural NADCA Awards, the NHRD and Avtar Diversity Champion Awards. A big round of applause for Suvarna. Thank you, and back to you, Anumita.
Oh, ma'am, thank you. Apoorva and Suvarna, would you like to say a few words, please? Apoorva, would you like to go first? We're not able to hear you, though you're unmuted.
Sorry. Yes, can you hear me now? Yeah. All right. So congratulations, first of all, Suvarna, to you too. I think I'm absolutely honored to receive this award and also, be in presence of such inspirational women and male allies and champions paving the way forward. It's just fantastic to hear all of you and being, audible to the panel members. Dr. Sanderiya talked about it. I started my engagement with Avtar about 5 years ago when we introduced this concept. And I personally very strongly believe that diversity adds to business outcomes and enhancing cultural experiences. But it's only half the picture, because if the diverse mindsets don't feel that they belong, or feel empowered to act to their full potential, we've not done the picture enough. So the fact that we are talking about all of this, I think is fantastic. And I'm using an analogy that you take a village. It takes a village to raise a child. Similarly, I think it takes a very strong, empathetic, equitable mindset within an organization that enables and empowers women to take executive roles and responsibilities. So I'm glad and thank you to everybody who's working towards that cause. And I'm committing myself to ensure that we continue to empower women professionals across all organizations, definitely in mine, and that they raise their hand and achieve these different areas. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Apoorva. Over to you, Suvarna.
Many congratulations, Apoorva. Thank you, Anumita, for the opportunity. I'm a little spellbound, actually, because what I thought was to learn more. And honestly, this is not the most awaited part. The most awaited part was the discussion that happened, and in between such an audience. I couldn't have asked for more. Dr. Sanderiya Rajesh, you are an authority when it comes to this subject, and have been following you for years now, and what you've created, with Avtar over such a long period of over 2 decades. You live this whole bit on DEI and excellence and strive on a daily basis. I remember you not being well, and you were still on a wheelchair, and you were advocating, and you were posting, when you had some troubles on your leg. I hope you're fine by now. I'm a little nostalgic. Swati, you are not the only one who is silently fan of people in this group. There is a fan for you too. You don't know how you inspired me 17 years back in a small meeting, which could have been cancelled very easily because you could not come to work that day, but you chose to do it at your home. And thanks for inviting me and over the OT for that meeting. And you've left a mark. Dr. S.V. Nathan, I started my career as a project trainee in Deloitte, 18 years back. So it's very nostalgic, and it's with such pleasure that I'm in the audience today. Honestly, a lot of the work that has happened in Sodexo belongs to the whole community, which is working on such topics, and the group definitely breathes every aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it was a little easy, all the more easier because you are in that role where you can decide. But honestly, who am I to empower anybody else when the whole workforce is so empowered by all they need is that ability to decide for themselves and an environment where they can be the way they are and the way they wish to. So all thanks to the organization where it has been enabled. And once again, thank you to everybody in the jury who actually thought it's worthy for a recognition. And a lot is still to be done here to Apoorva, like you said.
Thank you, Suvarna. That was straight from the heart. Thank you so much. I would like to now request Anuradha ma'am. She had something to say. She'd missed.
I'm sorry, I'd forgotten this, but in the gender category, it has been a very tight finish, and we have had to have it was a tie. So our super jury member is Ms. Swati Rustagi. I had forgotten to mention that she was a super jury. Thank you so much, Anumita. Back to you.
Sure, thank you so much. Okay, we will now move on to celebrate the individuals who have contributed to bring in systemic changes at workplaces, making it conducive for every individual from the LGBTQ community to rise to the fullest of their potential. May I now invite Mr. Karthik Ekambaram, Executive Vice President and Director, DEI Solutions at Avtar Group, to announce the winner for this category. Over to you, sir. Avinash, could you help us unmute Mr. Karthik? Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Anumita. I think it's been a very exciting day in all sense of the term, right? I know we had several things that is happening. I think the fact that we're able to go on with the same spirit and energy, I think reinforces the fact that we are also committed, irrespective of all the obstacles and barriers that we might encounter, we are also, in a sense, would like to, overcome those barriers there. And this is what all the awards is all about. The entire aspect of the NHRDN Avtar Diversity Champion is all about how each one of us here, each one of us outside, are able to really break those barriers and really champion the cause of inclusion, the cause of diversity. And that is what we're trying to do through this award. And hopefully, this award becomes bigger and bigger, and we're able to recognize more people. And specifically, I would like to mention this category specifically about the diversity champion for the LGBTQ plus category. Is a very special one, and everything is special. Every work that we do, when you talk about championship, when you talk about championing, we talk about persistence, we talk about perseverance, we talk about patience as a commitment to the particular cause. But this particular category, and in the context of the society that we live in, also requires a lot of bravery, tenaciousness, all this is required, this category. And I'm so honored and delighted to announce the winner of this award, Chandra Doraiswamy, Senior Director at GE India. So it's such a pleasure to bestow the award to you, Chandra. Just to give a quick introduction, we would love to hear from you as to how you do this, and hopefully we can learn from you, Chandra. But a quick introduction, Chandra Doraiswamy is a Senior Director at GE India. He has 23 years of industry experience. He has conducted numerous awareness and sensitization sessions both within GE and outside the organization. He has also written articles and white papers and published them. He's been recognized for all the work that he has done so far, both within and outside the organization. Out of his own personal interest and struggle, he's managed to help the LGBTQ colleagues through by formulating policies, creating awareness and inclusive space, and most importantly, providing opportunities for them. He has also co-founded Advisory Collective to help organizations on the DI journey, and is part of the expert group at Relink Consulting. Once again, Chandra, it's such an honor to present this award to you on behalf of NHRDN and Avtar. I welcome you to say a few words, Chandra.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words, Karthik. Congratulations, Apoorva and Suvarna, before I give my little acceptance speech. This is the week of Academy Awards, where people in the movie industry get recognized for their brilliant work. While that is not my line of work, I celebrate this award from NHRDN and Avtar as my Oscar. So thank you so much. And receiving this, I've been following Sanderiya as well as Nathan for many, many years. And to receive this finally, this is a big milestone in my career. So thank you so much. This has been an incredible journey for me, and I need to thank those who've been with me and behind me. I jokingly tell people that I have two jobs at GE. One is a day job, another is gay job. And now that has been acknowledged by NHRDN and Avtar. Thank you, GE and LM Wind Power, for welcoming people like me as they are and giving me an opportunity to follow my passion. I am who I am because of my parents, my gurus, and my role models. So thanks for all your support, love, and blessings and mentoring. I humbly accept this award on behalf of LGBT people and allies, both within and outside my organization. Lastly, to those tuned into the show, to show your love, support to all the nominees and winners, please extend the same support and love to LGBT people out there and many other marginalized groups.
Thank you, Mr. Chandra. Did we just see your mother logged in a while ago? Okay, you're muted, but yes, it was lovely to see her as well. Must have been a very exciting and proud moment for her. Thank you so much. Well, great. Thank you so much. We will now have Mr. Umashankar, our co-founder and Senior Vice President, Sales and Relationships at Avtar Group, announce the third category, which celebrates the change makers who have ensured DEI are not just buzzwords, but are actually embedded in the culture, contributing to the growth of individuals who are differently abled. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Anumita. And what a wonderful day today that we're celebrating amazing, amount of people out here with so many stalwarts out in the industry, and so very happy to announce the winner, Mr. Rajesh Punyani, Senior Director at Loway Services India Private Limited. Rajesh has 26 years of industry experience. He has been recognized as a PWD diversity champion by the organization. He says that his personal experience while interacting with differently abled people in daily life gives him a strong conviction that they are not different than normal looking people in any way. Hence, there is no reason for us to overlook them for any opportunity just because of some visible physical challenge. Hence, his relentlessness passion is to create an inclusive and inspiring environment for everyone that motivates, empowers, and nurtures differently abled people and provides them a platform for them to lead a fulfilling life. May I request Rajesh to have a few words, your acceptance speech?
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Umashankar. And I'm completely speechless right now. First of all, what a fantastic and exciting evening this has been so far. Starting with the, hearing the perspective from all the, the panel members, from everyone, of course. I knew this is going to be an exciting evening, but this has turned out to be a very exciting evening for sure. Friday has become happier, and now, of course, at the as the award is announced, this has become the happiest Friday for sure. So, thank you, first of all, NHRD and Avtar for recognizing this, and of course, like my other winners in other categories have said that this recognition is of course just the beginning of a huge journey that of course all of us are into right now. The perspective that of course all of us carry here, this award is just sort of a recognition that the industry, this whole thing is now taking a very concrete shape right now. This the sensitization, the awareness is just the tip of the iceberg, and we are just scratching the surface right now. And in fact, last week I was in an external forum, the first forum in person, after a gap of 2 years, and I heard a few eminent speakers, talking about various themes on the DNI and in various categories. And I caught a few keywords which obviously I would want to share here. One is, of course, a lot of talk has been done, a lot of conversations are happening in these forums, but I think the impact is still, need to be made, across the floor as well. So time has come that the conversations need to be resulted into the real impact on the ground as well. And I'm really thankful, of course, for the organization that I'm working for, who has given me this opportunity in the middle of COVID period when this whole BRG and the ERG journey was started. They've chosen me to lead the PWD or the ABLE, the BRG, of course. And I'm very happy to share that, of course, LOS, which is my company right now, is making big strides in terms of how we take the whole BRG and the DNI journey forward as well. And I think I would not want to just restrict myself into the organizational journey of spreading this whole thing further forward. I'm looking forward to go out in the larger world, take the message out, and not only just the message, of course, carry some meaningful action on the ground, because like Mr. Umashankar, you mentioned in the introduction, these people are differently abled. These are specially abled. There is no reason for us to just look at their physical and psychological traits and attributes and have any different treatment to these people as well, because all of us have different bodies, all of us have different minds and souls. We are all differently abled in some way or the other. So physical attribute absolutely should not be taken from the seriousness of the work point of view. So that is my fundamental philosophy, and of course I am this recognition gives me even more responsibility, I would say, and this gives me even more conviction that we are on the right track. And absolutely, I accept this on behalf of the whole, all the nominations which have come in this category. And again, I couldn't be more thankful, to the jury members for selecting this, and of course, NHRD and Avtar for taking this out in the open forum. Absolutely. So my heartfelt gratitude and thank you, everyone, once again for recognizing this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajesh. Thank you so much. More power to you, and I know to all the winners, congratulations, hearty congratulations. May you bring around more change and influence all the change makers around you. Right? I would like to take a minute to acknowledge Deepti from Amazon as a thought partner. She is also a jury member, so we'd like to thank you very much to be a part of this esteemed jury panel. I'm going to now go back and invite Ms. Anuradha Kanchi. She will deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anumita. Congratulations to all the winners. And now I start my vote of thanks. Sincere thanks to Mr. S.V. Nathan, President NHRD, Mr. T.K. Sriram, Secretary NHRD, Dr. Sanderiya Rajesh, our President of Avtar Group, for all, and of course, Swati Rustagi, who is a board member NHRD. Without you all, I am sure the award, this Diversity Champion Awards would have not been possible. And thank you very much from my personal self for bringing in such a wonderful award for the other minority groups, or like I should say the LGBTQ or the persons with disabilities. Very few organizations have actually given these awards till date. Then I also thank Deepti Verma. She has been a jury member and also the thought sponsor, Amazon, for this wonderful evening. It is very important to thank our event sponsor, Axis Bank, and also Rajkamal Vempati, who has been our jury member as well as a panelist. I thank our other panelists, Mr. Sumit Mitra, Sheila Dasgupta, and Ms. Deepti Gupta. Our thanks to the participants of the Diversity Champion Awards. It has been wonderful to have a record 27 participants in the inaugural awards. Our thanks to Mr. Karthik Ikambram and Uma Shankar from Avtar for announcing the winners. My sincere thanks to NHRD team, Mr. Dhananjay Singh, Nalan Srivastav, and a very special thanks to Avinash Khurana, who has done a wonderful job today in ensuring that our event has not been hacked by others. Thank you for your timely support in this. And I must thank, lastly, I would be thanking my own team who has helped me put up this wonderful program from, the starting of getting the nominations and getting it ready for the jury and presenting the program. Thank you, Animita, and the whole team. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everybody, for making this event a super fantastic, memorable evening. Wish you all a great weekend. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening and weekend to everyone.